Good evening. My wife Aubrey and I are honored to be here tonight. We want to thank Kathy Humbarger and Right to Life of Northeast Indiana for inviting us. And I want to thank Erin, who we just met a few moments ago, for joining in tonight's dialogue. Now, you might think Erin and I are opposites. I oppose abortion. She presumably supports it. We heard a moment ago she was from the East Coast. I grew up 30 minutes south of here in a small town called Tucson. And as embarrassing as that is, more embarrassing is I didn't realize till I was in college that that's a very weird name. But if you look deeper, I think you'll find important common ground between us, which I hope to explore this evening. For example, while I was reading Erin's bio on her website, I found some important information, things that she believes. For example, this: everyone deserves the highest quality of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. As I read this, I was struck that Erin and I, we both believe that you and me, all of us in this room, that we matter. Otherwise, she wouldn't think we deserve anything. So tonight, we are not debating whether humans matter. On that, we already agree. Here's what the debate will be about. Who is the everyone? The view I'm going to advance tonight is one of inclusivity, that every human being counts. It doesn't matter if your skin is black or pasty white like mine. It doesn't matter if you're tall or short like me. It doesn't matter if you're privileged enough to be born or too young. Now, I'll leave it to Erin tonight to define what she means by everyone. But as you listen, ask yourself, what does each side say about who counts as one of us? Who is inclusive and who is exclusive? Now, to all watching here tonight or online this evening, I think you and I too have critical common ground. Now, let me illustrate. In the dead heat of August 2018, Rhonda Jordan returned to her home in Bend, Oregon, to discover the unthinkable. She found her grandson, 7 years old Mason, lying under a sheet on his bed, dead. Gunshot wound to his forehead. He's seen here playing with his mom, Tashina. Nearby was Tashina, also on the floor, unconscious, and next to her, an empty bottle of pills. And there was also a note. It read, "I tried to shoot myself, but the gun stopped working, so I took 200 or more pills." Now, Rhonda realized, what I'm sure you have already as well, that's that Tashina killed her own son, Mason, before trying to take her own life as well. When I heard this story, I was grieved, and I thought, well, there's got to be more to this story. I had a second thought, too. No matter what else there is to this story, Tashina's act of killing Mason was unjustifiable. Now, I looked into it, and there was indeed more to this story. I discovered that Mason, 7 years old, was physically and mentally disabled. Tashina had become his sole caregiver the day his dad walked out on them. And on top of his round-the-clock care, Tashina had her own mental illnesses to take care of. As I read this, I realized this was a mother pushed to her breaking point by forces outside and inside. And my compassion for Tashina grew. I hope yours does too. In this, we should be united. But we must also agree to a second point. No matter how challenging Mason's disabilities were, no matter how exhausted or unwell Tashina was, it was wrong to kill Mason because he was an innocent human being. And that is why I'm here tonight to defend our resolution that elective abortion is a moral wrong, because the victims of abortion are innocent humans just like Mason. So here's my case tonight. To intentionally kill innocent human beings is a moral wrong. Second, elective abortion does that. It intentionally kills innocent human beings, and therefore elective abortion is a moral wrong. Now, if you and I can agree tonight that it was wrong for Tashina to kill Mason, we already agreed to that first line. We agree it's wrong to intentionally kill innocent humans like him. To say that Tashina should not have killed Mason is not to deny her choices as a woman. All it means is that some choices are wrong, including the choice to purposefully kill a child. It also does not mean we lack compassion. We can and should feel compassion for Tashina and women like her. And similarly, but we also should have our compassion should not push us to condone the killing of Mason. In the same way, we must have compassion for pregnant mothers, but our compassion should no more drive us to permit abortion than it would drive us to permit the killing of young Mason, if the preborn are human. And so since we already agree with my first line that it's wrong to intentionally kill innocent humans, what I need to do is defend my second premise, that that's what abortion does. So to do that, I have two questions for us tonight. One, is the preborn human? And second, does abortion kill her? So the first question, is the preborn human? Katha Paul is an abortion supporter who has done a lot of writing, and in her book, Pro, Reclaiming Abortion Rights, she gives the answer to this question. She writes this: obviously a fertilized egg is a human. It isn't feline or canine, and it is alive, and it is a being in the sense that it exists. Paul may support abortion, but she also accepts basic science. When sperm and egg come together in fertilization, a new human being is created. The sperm was part of the father, ovum part of the mother, but now a new being has come into existence. That being immediately starts growing. Dead things don't grow. She must be alive. But what kind of being is she? Well, Paula gives us the answer there, right? She's not feline or canine. She's the same kind of being as her parents. So if a woman is pregnant, is she a human? I think we can agree she is. What about the dad? Is he human? Some seem unsure tonight, maybe. But if they're both human, what they create must also be human as well. So if you read embryology textbooks, they affirm this in what they write. Here's just one, but I can share more this evening. Doctors Moore, Prasad, and Torsha in the Developing Human, Clinically Oriented Embryology, they write a zygote made at fertilization is the beginning of a new human being. Human development begins at fertilization. So she's human. But what about the second question? Does abortion kill her? Well, before Roe v. Wade, Planned Parenthood answered this question affirmatively. In a 1963 pamphlet they had, Plan Your Children for Health and Happiness, Planned Parenthood said an abortion requires an operation. It kills the life of a baby after it has begun. Why would they say that? Well, in surgical abortions, the baby is decapitated, dismembered, disemboweled through suction or forceps. Consider the testimony of Dr. Lisa Harris, who performs abortions. In Reproductive Health Matters Journal, Dr. Harris, writes of performing such an abortion procedure while herself pregnant. She writes, I picked up my forceps and began to remove the fetus in parts. I grasped an extremity and began to pull it down. I could see a foot hanging from the teeth of my forceps. With a quick tug, I separated the leg. And precisely at that moment, I felt a kick in my own uterus. There was a leg and foot in my forceps and a thump, thump in my abdomen. Instantly, tears were streaming from my eyes. So Dr. Harris concludes, there is violence in abortion. This is not merely for surgical abortions. In pill abortions, drugs detach the baby, starve and suffocate her, intentionally killing her, violently sending her to her death. Contractions begin and she's expelled violently from the mother dead, often in a toilet. But let's not take Dr. Harris's word for it. Let's look at the violence ourselves. I'm about to show you visual evidence that abortion kills. If you'd like not to see it, you can merely avert your gaze. It will last only 60 seconds. But first I want to pause here and give a side note. When we see injustice, we recognize deep within us something is not right with the world. We all saw it recently in the video of the brutal killing of George Floyd on that street corner. We saw that. We knew something is wrong. And we will see it together in a moment on this screen in the broken bodies and limbs. Something is wrong. Now, tonight, I am not building my case on religion against abortion, but as our country's attention is focused on evil, I want to make a really critical side note, and that is that when we see these evils and want to make sense of it, the gospel of Jesus Christ makes sense of this and provides a solution. We are a broken people. That's why racism is rampant in our land. That's why mothers are turned against their preborn babies. So what do? You can't retweet enough good vibes to end evil because it's inside us. Instead, we must trust in someone who's able to rescue us. Jesus Christ, truly man, truly God, is that someone. Now, justice demands that God not merely overlook the wrongs we do, including abortion, but for those who believe in Jesus, they have true forgiveness. So what you're about to see, this might have been your story tonight, but it does not have to end there. That is the lived experience of over 2,300 humans every day in America. Relevant for this cultural moment is that every day, 661 of them are black. I ardently believe that black lives matter, and that's not just black lives like you and me who are born, but also those 661 black lives. Now, in the beginning, I said this was not going to be about whether we matter. On that, we seem to agree. Now we come to the real dispute between us, and that is who is the we? Who counts as one of us? Here's the most controversial thing I will say this evening. I believe in human equality. While I was watching a Facebook Live video Erin posted on July 2nd, I was again struck by common ground we share. Erin and I oppose injustice. In the video, Erin laments what tonight no one here can ignore, and that is the barbaric stain of human slavery. In the video, Erin declares our ancestors owned people. Now, I share the fury against human slavery. I hope you do too. We have to ask, why? How do we know it's a moral wrong to own people? Isn't it because all humans are created equal? If it's wrong to own a man with white skin, it must also be wrong to own a man with black skin. The color of your skin does not suddenly make you the kind of being someone can own, but here's the great tragedy. Our concern is so often limited to those who are like us. We leave out the other, the one different in some way. I bet you the white slave owner himself opposed human slavery when it came to people who shared his skin color. He didn't want someone stealing his children, raping and selling his wife. But when it came to someone with darker skin than him, he allowed all manner of injustice. What if tonight someone walked in this room with a razor tooth wrench and began to perform an abortion procedure on the person sitting beside you? I hope everyone here, pro-life, pro-choice, would instantly object. But if you object to someone doing an abortion procedure on someone born like you, why do you allow it on someone who's different? Now, please don't misunderstand me tonight. I'm not saying a fetus is like you in every way. I admit that her immaturity does make her different. But here's my contention. Our differences, her being different, is not a death sentence. Now, what are the differences between born and preborn? It's pretty easy. We should know these differences. And there are only 4 of them. They're easy to remember. Consider this photo of my daughter and son, taken when my wife Aubrey was pregnant with our son. You can see there are differences between them. Our daughter's born, our son preborn. 4 differences, easy to remember. They follow an acronym, the acronym SLED. First, size. Our daughter was much larger. Our son at this stage was about the size of a sweet potato. Second, level of development. Our son was far from developing speech at that stage. Our daughter was already talking circles around my wife and me, and those who know her know that's true. Thirdly, environment, born and preborn. She was outside the womb, he was inside the womb, difference of location. And lastly, degree of dependency. Our son, being preborn, depended on my wife in an intimate way, whereas our daughter was no longer attached, still dependent, but to a lesser degree. These were genuine differences. But did these differences justify killing our son and not our daughter? No. And here's how I know. There was a third person involved in this photo, me. Now, I'm behind the camera, but imagine I'm in the photo with them. How would I differ from my born daughter? Those same 4 ways. I'm a pretty short guy, but I'm taller than my daughter. Does her smaller size make her somehow the kind of being we can kill? No, we know size is irrelevant to human value and rights. Second, level development. Yes, she could talk, but she couldn't speak French like me. I was more developed. Did that make me more of a person? No, we know level development is irrelevant. If it's irrelevant for my daughter and me, it must have been for our son as well. And third, environment. After this photo, I went back to work, she went home. Different environments. Did her different location mean that she had fewer human rights than me? No, where you are does not determine who you are. The same was true for our preborn son. And degree of dependency, I was much more independent than she was. Would anyone here tonight say her dependency on my wife and me made her less of a person? I don't think so. And if dependency was irrelevant between her and me, it must have been irrelevant for our son, because here is what matters. Our daughter is human, I'm human, our son, human. Our size, level, development, so on, those may describe us. They don't define us. Indeed, what these differences often tell us is how old you are. A fetus is so much smaller than us because she's so much younger. To say we may kill her for that is ageism. So we have a choice tonight, equality or inequality. Will we recognize all humans are equal, or will we, the powerful, the privileged one, the ones old enough to be born, say those who are too young just don't make the cut? I offer an inclusive society in which every human being counts. We know that color does not justify cruelty. Sex does not justify second-class status. Age does not justify abortion. How you look and act, that's going to change as you get older. Your membership in the human family, that will not. Now let's briefly review the ground that we've covered so far tonight. To defend our resolution that elective abortion is a moral wrong, this was my argument. First, to intentionally kill innocent humans is a moral wrong. The tragic story of Mason Jordan demonstrates on that you and I already agree. Second, elective abortion does that. How do we know? We asked, is the preborn human? The science demonstrates she is. We also asked, does abortion kill her? You saw for yourself, it does. And so we conclude elective abortion is a moral wrong. Now, Erin could defeat this case tonight by defeating my evidence that the preborn is a human being. If that falls apart, this whole thing falls apart. But here's what won't defeat the resolution. Attacking those who are pro-life instead of the case that I presented. What matters is not the color, gender, sex, age of those speaking tonight. What matters is the message, not the messenger. So as you listen, ask yourself, who has better evidence tonight? Now also, you might tonight dismiss my case by rejecting human equality. I'm really eager tonight to see where both Erin and I stand on this, to see whether she agrees with me that all humans are naturally, inherently equal. As you're listening, ask, which side values every human? Who is inclusive? Who is exclusive? But as I close, I'd like to offer one final thought. I have 2 daughters. I've often been told my opposition to abortion makes my daughters somehow unequal to men, that men allegedly can make a baby and walk away, and my daughters should be able to do so as well. But I believe that all humans are naturally equal. This means the black man need not somehow become white to be a full person. He is already enough as he is. In the same way, my daughters are naturally equal to boys as they are. To suggest that they need a medical procedure, abortion, to somehow become equal to men is to suggest that they are naturally inferior. I find that utterly offensive. Women are equal by their very nature. And further, when men act irresponsibly, I reject the notion that women should lower their bar to meet them. Remember, I began with the tragic story of Mason Jordan. His dad did walk out. What if you had been there when Tashina was holding the gun in one hand and the bottle of pills in the other? Would you have said, go ahead, shoot, take his life, opt out of this world your own, show the man you are just like him? Or would you have said, I can't imagine how hard this is, but there is a better way? Now, I think it's clear which path we should take. Regardless of who you are and what your story is, it is wrong to intentionally kill innocent human beings. That's what abortion is, and that is why it is wrong.
Thank you, Seth. Now we're going to do the cross-examination. That will go for 3 minutes. This is essentially Erin's time. She may interrupt Seth in his explanation if she has another question. So, Erin, whenever you're ready, begin.
Thank you. Quick note, I am no longer running for county council after being shot at with gas, rubber bullets, wrongfully arrested, spent over 24 hours in the Allen County Jail with a young woman, 22, 6 months pregnant, who was laying on the floor on a mat on the ground for missing a court date for a suspended license. So I won't become part of a government that wants me and my friends in jail and who treats pregnant women and the unborn, who I agree are human beings, like they do not matter. I loved the picture of your kids. You said there were 3 people in that picture, child, the unborn, and yourself. Yeah. You missed your wife. Because that baby, that unborn baby, is inside a human woman. Every little girl can grow up to hold another entire human being in her womb. I've done it 3 times. The first time I was 16. I wasn't ready to be a parent. I resisted my parents' pressure to get an abortion and did an open adoption. I have 2 little girls of my own. And I would carry another baby inside of me again. But we need to remember, right, that there weren't just 3 people in that photograph.
Sure.
So I'd like to ask for the remainder of this time if I could put my fist inside your mouth for just 2 minutes, right?
I don't understand what that would prove.
Well, if a woman becomes pregnant and does not want to be pregnant, she has to have a whole entire person inside her body against her will, correct? If the unborn is a person...
Are you saying that she has been assaulted and that's why she has the child inside of her?
Regardless.
Well, but if a woman has a child inside of her after consensual sex, when you choose your actions, then you have to deal with the consequences in a healthy way, right? If a man says, if a man and wife, when a woman have sex, a baby's made, he can't say, hey, I consented to sex, not to the pregnancy. He should not walk away. Tashina's, her boyfriend or husband should not have walked away. I think you and I probably agree on that. We think both men and women should not walk away. They have a responsibility now to this child they've made.
Would you like a whole entire person inside your body?
Now, I don't understand. Are you asserting that I cannot do that?
When you consent to sex, do you consent to have sex the next day too? Or do you only consent to that sexual act in that moment, and you can revoke consent at any time? At any time, if someone is touching your body, you can revoke consent. And I hope you do. If someone makes you feel uncomfortable, if someone is penetrating your body against your will, you can revoke that consent.
I would agree with that. But I think that when you consent to sex, if you get an STD, you can't just wish away the STD, right?
Do you consent to AIDS every time you have sex with your wife? Because you don't know. She could have been assaulted and hidden it from you.
You accept the chance you could have AIDS. Yes, you do accept that chance.
You consent to AIDS.
When you consent to sex with someone who has AIDS, you're accepting the chance you might get AIDS. In the same way, having sex, you are opening yourself to the possibility a child is made. Here's the question. When that child is inside your body, is it moral to decapitate and dismember that child?
If I forcibly put my fist in your mouth right now, those officers right there would be warranted in using lethal force to stop me. So when any human is inside another human against their will,
we are now hitting the time frame,
you get to
Erin.
exercise the rights of the Constitution to protect yourself.
Thank you. And now it's your turn, Erin, for your 20 minutes, or 20 minutes, yes.
I'm really excited to be here today and get to speak to so many young people. I've spent the last, since May 29th of this year, meeting so many brilliant and strong young people all throughout Fort Wayne. I met them on May 29th when we all came out to say that Black Lives Matter. And we were all out there, about 800 to 1,000 of us, defending life. defending that black lives matter. And the police came out and gassed us out of nowhere for hours. And they did it the next day and added rubber bullets. And then they did it the next day. Many of you maybe have seen the live that we shot while we were being arrested, my boyfriend and I. With no warrant, with no probable cause, just mild rumors. They brought out air support, canines, multiple officers with live rounds. I was arrested and taken to jail, where not only did I meet this girl, about 22, 6 months pregnant, in there for just its suspension of a license. She missed a court date. So she should be incarcerated and taken away from her own little child who was already born. In there with another young woman. It was her second OUI. And yeah, OUIs kill. But the county was talking about sending her up the river for 3 years so she wouldn't see her own child again until he was 10. I've met all of these young people, and we keep getting arrested. These kids keep ending up in jail because they want to defend life. So I'm super excited to meet even more young people who understand how valuable life is. And one thing we can all do today, if we agree that humans are equal, we agree that the preborn are human, is we can decide that the preborn do not have more rights than a born baby, than a child, than a teenager, than an adult woman. I do not have the right to put my body inside any of you. I don't. You are allowed, and those officers right there will do it for you, to use lethal force to stop that from happening. So when we say elective abortion is a moral wrong, the counterpoint to that is forced pregnancy and childbirth are a moral right. That any person should have to go through the experience of their body bonding to a human being, to a baby, that hurts every day it's in there, that it strips the marrow from your bones. Your teeth can fall out because the baby will take the nutrients whether you have them or not. If you're in jail and you're pregnant, you will give birth in shackles. Your baby will be taken from you. You will be in that cell for as long as the state says you need to be there, and if you are black, indigenous, or brown, you'll be there a long time. But at least your baby was born, right? To be raised by not you, not their dad. How many of you can sit here and say that it is morally acceptable for any person to be forced to push an entire human being out of their uterus, through their vagina, that can kill you? And for black women in this country, the maternal mortality rates are shockingly high. I do have disabilities. I have a severe connective tissue disability that would mean a pregnancy, especially at 40, could be very, very dangerous, if not lethal. But even still, at my advanced age with that physical disability, my maternal outcome as a white woman will be vastly superior to the most healthy, most wealthy black woman in this country. So if you want to stop abortion, you seem very, very concerned about black women having abortions, but not particularly concerned about the massive poverty gap. Why is it that black families have so little money when white families have so, so much? Why is it our maternal health care is so much superior? Why are these things? You want to stop abortion, you stop racism first. There is no inherent evil in any of you. I don't believe that for a second. I don't think Jesus would say right now that there's just inherent evil in every one of you. That means we cannot overcome racism. If we don't overcome racism, if we don't overcome poverty, and we don't overcome the need to use lethal force against each other, against every other country, you can't escape the need for abortion. When every family can say, yes, I can support the children I have, I can pay the hospital bill, I can keep my job, or I take the time off of my job to stay home with that little baby. When we can do that, when every mother knows that her health care will be superior, that she will not die of very common complications simply because of her skin color. And when we realize that no age gives any person the right to be inside the body of another against their will, then maybe we can talk about why abortion is so wrong. But unless you are spending weekends learning how to fight racism, I don't know why you're talking about abortion. Unless you are paying, $35 a head for your brown bag lunch and t-shirt to learn how to eliminate poverty entirely, why are we having these conversations? If we solve abortion, we still have racism, we still have poverty, and we still have war. I know that you are all here to learn how to debate liberals and communists and Satanists. But I think I've said my piece. And I think the value of continuing this is zero. So I will leave you with this. If you truly believe in human equality, you will think about the people who actually get pregnant, who actually give birth. And be very, very mindful that if you are forcing them to do either of those things against their will, because consenting to sex is not consenting to AIDS. It is not consenting to pregnancy. It is consenting to sex in that moment only. So good night, and God bless you all.
I have the time for cross-examination. Could you stay for a few questions? Well, as Erin leaves the building and as the moderators get together, let me just offer a few comments and thoughts about what we just heard. It's very easy to hear an argument and deflect. Now, if you're familiar at all with a red herring, it's a fish that you could use a smelly fish you could use to drag across a trail to get a bloodhound off the scent. And there's a fallacy that bears its name today. It's called the red herring fallacy. Because when we hear an argument, if you don't have a good response to it, you use this fallacy, a gap in logic, to distract from it. And that's a bit of what we just heard tonight so far, trying to get us off the track, saying stop racism first, missing entirely the inherent racism in many abortions that I was hoping we could engage this evening. Sadly, unfortunately, someone here in Fort Wayne who has become an anti-racist champion is not willing to stay and speak about racism. When you have 661 black babies killed every day, when you have an industry, Planned Parenthood, that has its abortion facilities in minority communities and was built on the eugenics grounding of wanting to exterminate minorities, there's a lot of meat there we could discuss. Sadly, we're not going to. She chose to leave. But not only did she choose to leave, astronaut, she also gave us some other logical fallacies. This idea of stopping racism first is a massive begging the question fallacies. Begging the question means you assume what you've not proven. Now, it seems tonight that Erin's statement assumes the preborn is not a human being. Otherwise, she wouldn't say stop racism first. She would say you kill. You stop abortion. Don't kill the baby. You stop all injustice. You don't just say, let's fight racism over here and not look at racism here behind you. That is very, very myopic, very, very short-sighted. If the baby is a human being, it is not only racist, it is utterly immoral to kill them. This is not merely about racism. That is part of it. It's also about basic human rights. If we had 2,300 toddlers killed today in America, do you think anyone would say, let's stop poverty first? Let's worry about our borders first. Let's worry about this, worry about that. No, we would say, stop the killing. If someone here suggested it is moral to decapitate and dismember little people that are born like you and me, we'd all object. And I think another point is made about what Erin was saying about this fist notion. Acknowledge this. If someone puts their fist in your mouth, they have not been invited in. Now, if you say, I'm going to open my mouth really wide, try to stick it in there really good, then maybe you should let them stick their fist in your mouth. But that means you invited them in, right? The baby has not forced her way in like someone might force their fist into your mouth. The baby has been invited in. When you consent to sex, you are choosing the action. You don't get to choose the consequences. You've already chosen the action. You must deal with the consequences. Like I said, if you have sex and get an STD like gonorrhea or chlamydia, you must deal with that in a healthy way. Ignoring it is not healthy. If you have sex and get pregnant, you must deal with that in a healthy way. Now, I'm very disappointed tonight because I thought we'd have more to rebut. Understand this. I know that some of you, a lot of you are new to the Life Defenders camp, but let me tell you something that I have seen because many years ago, I was in your very shoes. I was a student coming to this camp for the first time. I drove Scott Klusendorf, the president of Life Training Institute, around in my car. I met Mike Spencer later, married his daughter. But so I saw this happening and thought, you know what? That looks really cool. What just happened? You can be right here. We think it's so scary to defend life. It is not scary because I see this, my team in black shirts, we see this everywhere we go across the country. We give a case. We go to campuses with our signs and say, if someone can give us any evidence that preborn is not a human, we'll go home. No one ever does. What did Erin do? She conceded our whole case. She said, yes, they're humans. She agreed to our first premise. She agreed that they're human beings. She didn't answer the question, does abortion kill them? But she seemed to be opposed to it. So as I close, we're going to let the moderators come up. Just a couple more thoughts, and then I'll turn over to Kathy or Mike, whoever's going to take this on. But just remember this. What you saw tonight, though I am disappointed, I have been preparing. I was excited for a robust exchange of ideas. What you saw tonight is what I see every single day. People support abortion and have no good reason for it. When you give a good reason for abortion, they walk out the door. That is not to say every abortion advocate has not thought this through. Some of them have. And this weekend, you're going to be prepared to take them on. But many, many times they just say, distraction, I won't engage, and walk away. And why is that? Why do you think that is? A couple things. Our case is really, really good. Who can oppose this? It's wrong to intentionally kill innocent humans. Elective abortion does that. Therefore, it is wrong. Who can oppose that? I think they've forgotten something. We have been fighting tooth and nail, not me, others have been fighting for decades, since 1973 and before. I've met people fighting before Roe v. Wade made abortion legal throughout the country. We have been fighting, preparing for years. We are ready for this fight. We are not willing to sit and let the status quo continue. They have the status quo. Now, I have no idea if anyone's still watching online, but I want to give you just a couple closing thoughts, and then I will, as I promised, turn this over. To those tonight persuaded, like me, that elective abortion is a moral wrong, I have a thought for you. Coming to a debate, not quite 2 hours, right? Coming to debate, seemingly for every time we've been together this evening, having your heart opened to the dehumanized is a great first step. But it's not enough to save preborn people. This debate is no mere intellectual exercise. Real human lives hang in the balance. They need your intentional acts of love and sacrifice. If our nation dehumanized you and declared you the kind of human fit for execution, it would be cold comfort to you if people who said they cared about you listened to an hour-long discussion about it. You would want them to stand up, demand justice, put their lives on the line. That is what our preborn neighbors need from you. To those, anyone still listening, undecided or unsure, I have a thought for you. There is a lot of talk today, and I'm glad there is, about systemic injustice. I am glad that we are having this conversation. I oppose injustice in all of its manifestations. Hope you do too. But are you open-minded enough to consider the systemic nature of elective abortion? It's systemic killing. Roe v. Wade made abortion legal throughout the entire nation, allowing the building of powerful infrastructure. There are over 800 abortion facilities forming a veritable network through our nation where preborn babies are killed every single day, starved and suffocated by drugs, decapitated, dismembered, and disemboweled by surgery, suction, or forceps. 2,362 every day. And as I said, 661 of them are black. Some facilities like Planned Parenthood operate on our tax dollars. Lobbyists are ready at a moment's notice to drop everything and fight against any bill that might save just a few of these babies from death. Systematic killing. It's also systematic dehumanization. Counselors and doctors encourage parents with difficult prenatal diagnoses to abort. Films like Obvious Child, starring Jenny Slate and other famous people, try to convince viewers that this should be normal to kill people. Rhetoric is used every day on college greens and on street corners to dehumanize the preborn, like clumps of cells and parasites. Or it's systematic disregard from both those pro-choice and, dare I say, pro-life. Everyone here tonight saw the broken bodies on the screen, yet many will go on their lives unchanged. Erin tonight agreed that's a human. She recognizes it. She cares about born humans who are dying, born humans who are in jail. She does not care about preborn humans. What does that mean? She is open-minded to anyone who's like her born. Her heart is closed to those preborn. Will you tonight open your heart to those who are preborn, younger than you? Systematic killing, dehumanization, disregard, and most importantly, it is systematic legal killing. Abortion is not the only injustice, nor is the only systemic concern facing us, but here's what cannot be denied. No cause, no crime, nothing else is claiming as many lives as every day the blessing of the law gives us to kill little preborn people. Every year in our nation, we kill through abortion roughly the population of Indianapolis. No recourse, no justice for these hidden victims. You may turn off your computer tonight. You may go home tonight pro-choice, but if you do so, do not pretend that you are a friend to human equality. You've attached your name to the most systemic dehumanization effort in our nation today. But I'm not a pessimist. I don't think Kathy is either. I think we can move forward. I think we can both shake off the dusty prejudices of our past and be open-minded enough to look at the reality of today. I think we can move together the long march for civil rights for all. So we're back to the question I began with. Who's the all? Are you ready to decide? You have to. Who counts? You must. We cannot achieve justice for all if we systematically set aside an entire swath of people for execution. There's no equality if it's reserved only for those privileged enough to be born like us. We must not demand freedom at the price of bodies of those weaker than us. It is time to unite. Unite around one very simple truth. Every single human counts. Regardless of your sex, your skin color, your religion, your age, abortion is the intentional killing of innocent human beings, and that is wrong because every one of us, black, white, rich, poor, born, preborn, we are all truly created equal. Thank you.